Alright, hello once again, this is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. I've been going over a series of video presentations I'm making for the Rankin Technical College AWD, that's Application and Website Development program, and in particular the AWD 1111.NET Framework with Web Databases class. And the book for this class for the fall 2019 semester will be Pro ASP.NET MVC 5. An A-Press text by Adam Freeman, and I'm in the middle of Chapter 7 of 27. So as we head back in here, to test the page links helper method, we can call the method with test data and compare the results to the expected HTML. The test method is as follows, so you can see these are the changes. We got the pagination. Okay, so I guess we could have attested that one. You close that. All right. It's giving me an error here on this controller. Looks like now I can add this. No idea if that's probably not going to fix the error that I have. It's not, but at least now I have that in the oh, and that's in the in the unit test. And I don't think I was supposed to have it there. I think I was supposed to have it in my domain. Oh well, that's fine. It's not going to hurt anything being there. So we have to go and make our changes, which involve adding this test method under the other one. Again, I'm not going to be concentrating in this class on actually doing these tests. All right, there's just not really going to be enough time to give them the justice that they deserve. But for completeness sake, I am putting it in here. So, all right. It's giving me a couple errors, one up above for that controller and the one down here. So my guess is if I do go in and even try to run these unit tests, I'm going to have nothing but problems. So. Says the test that we just put in verifies the helper method by using a literal string that contains double quotes. That's fine. Okay. An extension method is available for use only when the namespace that it contains is in scope. So we want to go into we want to add the helper method namespace to the views web config file. I've never added anything to the views web config before. All right, and that is under our UI views, and it's the other web config, as I like to refer to it as. And we're adding namespaces. So there's another one. All right, bottom of page 183. Adding the view model data. I am not quite ready to use the HTML helper method. I have to provide an instance of the paging info view model class to the view. I could do this by using the view bag feature, but I'd rather wrap all of the data I'm going to send to the controller to the view in a single model class. To do this, we're going to add a class file in our web UI that's called product list view model. Alright, so that has now been added. They want us to change it so that it looks like this. And what do we have here? An IEnumerable to give us our products, and this for our page info. Okay. I can update the list action class to provide the details that we have to use. So I'm going to go back to the product controller and make the changes that are shown here on page 186. There we go. First thing is we have to add a using statement. There we go with that. And we want to add in our list, we're going to make some changes to it. Not sure if that took. Again, we'll get some errors because part of it's on the next page. Okay, so we're missing something here. We'll fix it. These changes will pass a product list model as the view as the model data to the view. Now, as we go through this in the fall semester, we'll be doing it slower. Okay, we won't be doing it in these 10 to 15 or 10 to 20 minute chunks as we're doing right now. Okay. Okay, the author added one more test method here. Oops. All right. Remember that basically what we're doing here is when we're doing these unit tests is we said, well, we tried to do this. We're trying to set up a scenario in which we can test to make sure that whatever it is that we just set up indeed does work. Now, again, I've said this before. You'll hear me beating the same drum a lot of the time. But I do want you to realize it's not that unit tests are not important. On the contrary, they're unbelievably important. All right? But there's only so much that we can cover in a semester. The author says we also need to modify the earlier pagination or the can paginate test that we did. So let's grab that line. Again, I am adding this information for completeness. So can paginate in the act. These two lines I'm now going to comment out. And I'm going to add that line. And I guess in the assertion we have to change this first one in here as well. All right. I would usually create a common setup method given the degree of duplication between these two methods. However, since I'm delivering the unit tests in individual sidebars, I'm going to keep everything separate. Okay? Finally, the view is currently expecting a sequence of product objects, so we need to update it as shown here to deal with the view model type. Oops. Now this is only part of it. There's more on the next page. So we're updating again the list.cshtml file. Okay. And then we are told on the next page to change the for each statement, so we have model.products. So as the author mentions right underneath there, I have changed the model directive to tell Razor that we're now working with a different data type. I updated the for each loop so that the data source is the products property of the model data. Let's do a save all on here. And the next thing is to display the page links. I believe that before we do that, we must be bumping up here. We are to 16 minutes. So I'm going to stop. But before we do stop, I want to just run it one more time. Make sure that it still comes up. Now, if I get an error, I'm going to take for granted that there's a problem that will be fixed in the rest of the chapter. And it still looks good. 4 of them. We can still come in here with our second page, and then finally with our third page. That's one of the things that we're going to fix in just a couple minutes. All right, so let's stop right here, and we will pick it up again talking about displaying the page links. You know what? I'm just going to go over to my list.cshtml file and put this in. Already got the file up there. All right, right after the for each, put in that div, save all, and run it one more time. In fact, do we still have it up here? Yes, we do. So let's go back and refresh. There's our 1, 2, 3. There's page 3, page 2, page 1. As you all know, we have not applied any CSS to this yet. So it's still very basic. We'll work on that later. What's important to realize is that the links take you from page to page. And as you can see, page equal 1, page equal 2, page equal 3, without having the end user have to type in that information. All right, so that is what they show up on the top of the next page. All right, and then finally in here, the author says, why not just use a grid view? It says if you've worked with ASP.NET before, you might think we could have done a grid view. All right. And the author says, first, I'm building an application with a sound and maintainable architecture that has that separation of concerns, which you really don't have with a grid view. Second, I've been creating unit tests as I go to validate this. Finally, bear in mind that I've given over a lot of this chapter to creating the infrastructure. All right? So that doesn't mean that it couldn't be done. But when you think of grid view, I at least think more of rather than an MVC, using a web form, and we're not using web forms. So when we do come back, which will be in just a minute, we are on page 189, and we're going to try to improve the URL.